Well, hey, welcome to this week's Steam Culture. I want to introduce you to this guy, the Fairbairn Steam Crane. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly because it's a Scottish thing. Sir William Fairbairn invented this guy in 1850. Now, it's located to this day at the Bristol docks in Bristol, England. Now, the first thing you notice is for a crane, it's got this curved design. Well, that's there for a reason. It was modeled after a swan's neck, which apparently is incredibly strong, due to its elongated interlocking vertebrae. So that was the model for the design. But the design had a purpose. You see, these heavy loads couldn't be lifted all the way to the top of the mast because with a regular mast, you'll notice here in this animation, when it's straight, the loads hit it on the way to the top, so you're limited. But with this curved mast, you could lift a heavy load all the way to the top. Now, speaking of heavy, the cranes at the time in the dock were 3-ton lifting capacity. This guy was 35 tons. It was huge. 120 ton was the weight of the crane, and it was buried in a 25-foot pit, dug and driven all the way into the ground with anchoring masts coming off of it going into the bedrock. It was a huge deal. Now, it had a steam boiler on the back, which is why it's on Steam Culture. So 100 psi vertical boiler mounted right on the back behind all this super heavy gearing and winching. And the steam drove the steam engines, which turned the gears, of course, and lifted the pulleys up and down the mast. It also powered the engine that turned the crane on its, rotated it on its axis, left and right, and something called a donkey pump, which is what brought water up out of the pit to feed the boiler. Now, the original boiler was coal-fired in that day, and it's been replaced since, so it's not coal-fired anymore. But there's something you need to know about the crane. It was ordered in 1875. Well, by 1878, when the construction was finally done, the ships had gotten so large that they couldn't get into port to get to the crane. So it worked for like literally 16 days, and then they kind of shut it down. And I think they said it had about 150 lifts on it by the time World War II came around. But this is where they're really happy they installed this guy, because now we had armored cars, armored tanks, and the only thing in the Bristol dock that could lift something was the 35-ton capacity Fairbairn Steam Crane. So they fired up the boiler and fired up the crane, figured out a way to get the ships in the dock, and it performed 2,000 lifts during that World War II period and really helped them out. So I wanted to introduce you to that because I think it's kind of a unique thing. There's only one left, and it's at the Bristol dock, this curved jib, driven by steam power, which is why we love it here on Steam Culture. So go out and Google the Fairbairn Steam Crane. I think you'll find some interesting stuff. While you're Googling, Google us, because we have great content. We're out there with all the social media. We got something for you, and I'll have something for you next week. Hope you join me. Have a great weekend.